So in this lecture, we'll be talking about changing faces of activism, or rather cyber activism, how it started and where does it place itself now. And with that, we'll be talking about the impact and also the features of cyber activism or activism in digital media spaces. We began or we discussed cyber activism last lecture, where we talked about the Zapatista movement that started in response or in opposition to the Mexican government, and from there how the digital spaces were used to mobilize, to channelize people and to make that social change happen. Now after that, we also saw Anonymous taking over, though it took a long period of time. No one knows who started Anonymous, but it has been of great, it acts as a resource for hacktivism, as they called. They hacked the government of Iran, and they kind of revealed the frauds that happened between the Arab Spring and the other Arab countries. So, moving on, looking at the changing face of activism, we see that there has been a lot of scholarship on global digital policies and has highly recognized the growing significance of these digital infrastructures for political expression in the last 2 decades, and highlighting internet based organization as a key aspect of contemporary political agitations. So, situating the scholarship of these global digital politics, we see that how internet it is highlighting internet based organizations as a key aspect of contemporary political agitation. So, at the moment, the political agitations that we see for or against, it all starts with internet. It all starts with the organizations that are based from internet. India's millennials, since we are talking about activism in India largely, Indian millennials, particularly those who come from the age group or the new millennials, overlapping with the Gen Z. So, we have both the cases available here, the millennials and the Gen Zs, and the overlap, the generation that is there, born in this new millennium, are drawn to digital media to mobilize, satirize and express their interest in political matters. So, they are using these digital spaces to bring out their opinion, share their ideologies in these digital spaces on political matters. They come from diverse class backgrounds, but again, they are the people who are expressing their interest on these political matters are the urban elite or the semi-urban people who have the uh, availability of internet and who have the ability to comprehend the dialogues that are happening in these digital spaces. The digital political campaigning and propaganda, enabling the data analytics and targeted to appeal to voter base, remains important aspects of digital politics. So, as we discussed earlier about the IT cells of various political parties, what they are doing in order to do this political campaigning in digital spaces, or how they are enabling their propaganda in these digital spaces using data analytics, and also the targeted to appeal to voter base. Now, it has become indeed very advanced how the scenario of political campaigning and propaganda is changing in this 21st century. The studies have shown that Indian politicians and political parties are using internet, and the survey have contended that the direct impact of social media on voting presence is not high. So, up until now, since it is by Lokniti, we see that the data says that the larger impact of social media or influencing of Indian politics is not that high. Maybe in times to come it may change. The practices of state surveillance and biopolitics are other important dimensions of digital politics. Now, what is the state surveillance? What does it do? So, it might uh, monitor you, the state might monitor you using the practices of state surveillance and also biopolitics. So, if we remember during COVID, everyone was asked to get the vaccination, because without vaccination they couldn't travel, and even the hotel booking were happening if they have the certificate of the vaccination. Now, that brings us to the question of biopolitics, the politics around the body of the individual. Now, does a person have the authority to say no? And if they say no, what will happen next? So, these are the few practices of state surveillance and biopolitics and other important dimensions of digital politics as well, because in the internet people were putting these vaccination certificates and all, not realizing this is a part and parcel of what they call as biopolitics. The variety of participations and contestations have relied on an equally diverse panoply of social media practices, hashtag activism, slogan exchange, video capture and circulation of YouTube. So, these also are acting in what they call as participation and contestation, where they are everyone is putting a hashtag, everyone is putting a status, they are exchanging these slogans, video capturing and circulation is happening on YouTube. Many news channels also come up with this idea to send a missed call for the particular campaign. If you are supporting, send a missed call, give a missed call in this number. So, this is again very organized in the domain of what they call as digital spaces. Spread across the metropolises and smaller cities in India, as well as the diaspora, the digital practices and their connections with politics of caste, religion and region, class allow a glimpse of the networked form of political action that have emerged with digital media. Now, we know that how the government is now connecting, or the political parties is connecting with its members and the larger population is through digital media, whether they are. So, government launched Digital India program in 2015 to connect whole of India. It was an opportunity for the rural people to get connected to the other parts of the country. A very good initiative. But we see that this digital media spaces not just is limited to the population in the country, but also to the diaspora, and these digital practices and their connections with how they function with politics of caste, politics of religion, politics of race, etc. One key feature of this networked political action is self-work of ordinary publics. So, we see that it is a key feature of networked political actions which shape the self-work, like a voluntary work of ordinary publics. They are so influenced in the digital spaces that they voluntarily perform. With the growth of internet media and affordable Wi-Fi, avenues for amplifying political voices have certainly expanded for ordinary citizens. So, for ordinary citizens as well to give a political voice, it has become very easy with Wi-Fi and the growth of internet media. So, we had few movements such as Me Too, which was gender-based harassment. Then there was Dalit activism online in India, hold testimony to social media disruptive efforts. However, we see cautioning against the celebration of participation of empowerment as empowerment. Millennial India gestures towards two conflicting phases of the digital politics and diverse traditional politics, and of unabashed violence of digital circulation and mob vigilantism. So they talk about two conflicting phases of digital platforms or digital politics. One, it leads to activism, but it also leads to further escalating the matter, and it in a way is now leading to mob vigilantism. Now, many a times it has been seen, and in many of the events that has happened in the country, often earlier the news reporters used to go to the uh, grassroots. They would go to that particular place where the mob lynching or any communal riot has happened. Now, what happened was, and in a way we can see it as a political censorship as well. So, what used to happen is people sitting and watching the television now have the idea of that particular locality and the people who stay there belonging to a particular race or religion or caste. The mob vigilantists, they go and then they perform violence in that particular place. Now in this digital era, we see the internet ban of those particular places, so that people cannot post such videos, and the other people who are sitting on the other side do not get an idea of the place or the person, and then the violence should not escalate. But on the contrary, these two conflicting phases of digital politics is happening. One, where we see the changing phase of political activism happening, and then there is the changing phase of where we see incidents of mob vigilantism. Now, millennial India and multiple publics. India has 450 million internet users, and then we see digital media cultures have expanded across major social media platforms in WhatsApp, Facebook, internet, Instagram, Twitter, etc. This also brings us to the fact that these people who are called as multiple publics are in almost all of these digital media spaces, other than Twitter, because in Twitter we see people who are ready for some discourse or coming from a strain of readers or ardent readers or responders enjoying the political discussions. We'll find them in Twitter, but in Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we'll find all categories of people. So, outpouring of new media expressions. Now, Facebook has the largest number of subscribers in India, followed by United States. And then the company recently started its WhatsApp services, which is close to 200 million users. Now, India constitutes one of the rapidly growing markets for Twitter in terms of active users. If we compare the OTT, the same thing was said for OTT India being one of the second largest, might have surpassed and have become the fastest growing. Internet penetration rates in rural and urban India stands at 173.42 million and 338.84 millions respectively. Telecom Regulatory Authority of India's report. Almost a third of world's population that is not connected to the internet are in India. That is what Iyengar said in 2018, but this is 2024, and things might look different after the pandemic and after the surge of the OTT. Despite these sobering indicators, we see that continued growth of digital markets and the state-led digitization agendas are being shaped. And we also see digital tools as a means for political communication happening. Now, we also see the impact of political present. Internet media as are expanding at once as source of information, affective space of affinity and objects of state policy. So basically these cyberspaces are being used by what they call as government or political. Many political parties are also in a way using these digital spaces for explaining, for propaganda, for making the people politically aware of their agendas. With a growing digitally savvy young population and the spread of digital media, we see what then are the possibilities and limitations of internet enabled political participations in contemporary India. So, further we have to wait to see how or rather what are the possibilities. And to further explore two interlinked accesses which are digitally visible and digital temporalities will be read or will be discussed right now. Now, first we will examine what is called digital visibility. So, as the name suggests, it is talking about one's presence in internet, how long it has been or how long it will be, and what are the reasons that formulate or makes let us to answer these questions on digital visibility. There are new ways of seeing from below, argues Arvind Kumar Thakur. He has documented the spurt of online expression among historically disadvantaged Dalits who belong to India's most oppressed castes. Now, seeking to overcome their historical marginalization and to challenge caste-based discrimination, Dalit groups have been active in creating online networks, discourses and archives. Against the severe under-representation of Dalits in mainstream media, which are still largely under the control of upper caste and dominant caste groups, digital medias have revived alternative avenues of political publicity that are relying on the potential of social media virality. Now, Arvind Thakur talks about new ways of seeing from below. Now, it is often the idea that people often see from above. Now, how do you see from below, where he discusses that the Dalit community, who is always in the lower strata of the society, how they are seeing. So, basically it is from their vision point. And he also further says that they have always, like historically they have been marginalized, and and it has challenged the caste based discrimination. While Dalit groups have now been very active in digital spaces by forming networks, having discourses and archives. Now, against the severe underrepresentation of Dalits in the mainstream media, we see that the digital media have revived alternate avenues of political publicity through virality. Now, it is through viral, how viral one can get, how viral it is becoming, that they are in a way blurring the line, or that narrow thin line which still existed when they are talking about the marginalized in a way, but that's only happening in the cyberspaces. If we go back to the mainstream, the conditions are still same. It is not changed, or it is not changing, or it is stagnant, one can say, but only to make it popular for maybe some amount of time, it is making them viral, or social media has that potential to do that. Now, Thakur further illustrates that in specific cases, violent attacks on Dalit youths have gone unnoticed without viral diffusion. Now, he again contests and says that even though digital media spaces have the potential to do that, the violent attacks on Dalit youths have not seen significant what they call as viral diffusion. These social media virality is seen to calm democratic deliberation, and blamed for rumor mongering has gained a different political meaning in these movements. Now, movements in and around Dalit, we see that this social media virality has widely inimical in nature to calm the democratic deliberation. So people who are wanting to exercise their democracy or democratic deliberation, they have blamed the rumor mongering people for who have gained a different political meaning out of these movements. So there are people with different agendas, political agendas, and because of them also these viralities seem to not uh, take that amount, that kind of stand which it would have been otherwise. With easy sharing and diffusion of messages online, we see that the, these voices, these Dalit voices from history and the mainstream upper caste political consciousness, which maintains its dominance through structured invisibility. So they are in a way maintaining their voices, their histories, and we also see the mainstream upper caste political consciousness which maintains its dominance through structured invisibility. Further, we see that these civic campaigns organized by activists, citizen in India, is seen as digital resources which are equally important. Now, there are people, civic people who have nothing to do with political parties but are everyday people in neighborhood who are coming up with these campaigns. They are organizing these activisms, and it is adding to the digital resources. The civil society campaigns demanding corruption free government, public hygiene, environmental protection, and elevating of urban poverty and allocation of public resources for neighborhood developments have increasingly used social media platforms as key means to mobilize their idea. So these are the also some of the larger problems that people have tried to bring in through social media activism, but for a desired future. But having said that, we still have a long way to see how it gets mobilized. Now coming to the youth campaignings, and Asa Doron has found that India's youth use social media networks to organize campaigns. For example, cleanliness of public streets, voice their impatience against the state's apparent inability to manage waste disorder. So there is another campaign, youth campaign, that she mentions about, and we see that majorly it is about the cleanliness issue in the state or in the particular city, and government is paying no heed to these uh, cleanliness related issues or the waste management and disorder around it. In these civic minded initiatives, digitally enabled actions have become a way to signal the desired future. So many at times we see that they bring in mobilize a group of people in that particular city, and they go for a cleanliness drive on a Saturday and Sunday, and since they already have mobilized a community, they ask them to volunteer, and that is how these civic minded initiatives are actually getting placed. Digital medias have thus not only provided coordination tools, but it has also co-created a public culture of aspirational change oriented citizens. So there are many citizens who initiate these changes through digital media spaces, and it is very inspirational in a way to see how digital media spaces have been utilized. Although change oriented citizens are not an invention of the digital era, as they relate to longer mediated forms of rights based agenda building and urban revival, the networked dimensions of online communities and enable new channels of mobilization. Now, it is also said that people who are the change oriented citizens who are taking initiatives on their own and doing the tasks, it is not an outcome of these digital spaces, because it has been there for a very long period of time when there was no internet, or the internet usage was not as good as it is today, and therefore we see that they have only helped in mobilizing more people. That's the only good or adding to this change oriented citizens groups that has happened. We also see that these change oriented citizens are not an invented of the digital era. They relate to longer mediated forms, and one such example is from Bangalore. It was the movement that started was called the Ugly Indian movement in Bangalore, and these anonymous Facebook group people of this community came together to start this initiative of cleaning, organized cleanup drives, which they started to mobilize through usage of social media, and volunteers would come, put their effort to maintain the momentum. So it was not just a one day affair that they would voluntarily come and do the cleanliness drive, but they kept it going through some sort of momentum building, and in a way that worked. The result was a significant improvement in the city's public spaces and increased civic engagement among other residents. So in a way, the community of these change oriented citizens, they don't limit it. In a way, they make a larger impact on the other residents of that place or neighborhood as well. This digital visibility linked to civic engagement has and change oriented political action has enabled new connections with the Indian diaspora. So now people who are not in the city or not even in the country, the diaspora who are staying outside, has also joined this online community of change oriented citizens. They might not be present in these voluntary drives, but in a way they are supporting the cause, and that has been possible because of the digital space. Further, we also see the reflection of the global phenomena of the diaspora online activism. These Indian diaspora members are using internet enabled networks to engage in civic and political campaigns in the homeland. So, for example, the Narmada Bachao, or for example, the Dalit movement. So, these diaspora people joined these online communities in order to come together with the other members of those movements and activisms. In this ethnographic study of Aam Aadmi Party, where we see volunteers in the United Kingdom reveal that digital platforms have enabled the Indian diaspora to participate in electoral campaigns and articulate the ideals of pan-Indian civil mindedness. So, they are helping through digital campaigns, staying in UK, to promote the Aam Aadmi Party. So, if we talk about the presence of political digitalization or digitalism, it has become immense because of the participation of the diaspora as well. Using their technical skills and experience of working in high-tech industry, these volunteers have tried to bring a team that based but self-directed, flexible working practice of the global IT industry for political campaigning. Since they are diaspora, many of them are not able to come back even for voting. They are doing these electoral campaignings using their skills in the IT sector. So, they are all mostly established in big IT companies, and these IT companies skills they are using to make change in political campaignings being in other country as well. The common thread that runs through these campaignings is the moral critique of establishment, and moral critique that comes out distinctly is the middle class in its orientation, and are largely driven by digitally savvy middle class youth. So, what is observed in this process of the use of digital media for activism is that the middle class youth is more digitally savvy and also largely driven. Further, we see Doron arguing that the prefigurative project circulating across social media networks are instrumentalized by the middle class to favor the interests of the proprietary class in Indian cities. So again, the role of middle class is very important, where middle class is used to favor the interests of the proprietary class in Indian cities. Social media circulation could itself be policed for its potential rapturous visibility, its capacity to reveal the messy, turbulent politics of the everyday. So, in many ways, digital platforms or social media is working to reveal the politics, the turbulent politics of everyday. Whenever there is a minister going to a particular function, people are out with their cell phones recording, and each and every incident or whatever that politician says is captured and being circulated. So this is how the turbulent politics of every day is also getting revealed, and it is reaching the masses instantly. There is something also called the remixes and unofficial uploads. So a little bit of censor issue that is coming up because of these digital spaces is, many at times we are talking about this deep fake or the remixes and something which is unofficial. You're uploading it and it is backfiring in ways, maybe not to the person who uploads, but the person who is there in the video. So these things also need to be kept in mind while using digital activism, or while talking about digital activism at large. So India, who's relentlessly circulating and annotating the material at hand, often questioning the supremacy of official narratives about events and controversies. So because of these unofficial uploads of certain events, people do not know the actual narrative behind. In a way, they are restricting the real narrative to move forward, and because of again the virality of the unofficial uploads, it still serves in the background. By injecting this new circuits of witness and capture, digital platforms have thus created visibility and connections that defy the naive celebration. Further, together we see the digital visibilities, the second interrelated axis concerns the temporality of digital media. So, the question is arising around the temporality of digital media and the digital visibilities, how it will further move with time when there will be other digital visibilities that will be getting added to the present ones. These digital temporalities refer to the emergent forms of instantaneous coordination for political action, especially by means of instant messaging services such as WhatsApp. So, in this era of digital temporalities, they are using WhatsApps as an instantaneous coordination to send messages instantly. So what is the temporality, the time frame that they are talking about? It is very instant. That is what they are referring to. And Coady further notices a modality of spontaneous assembly and publicity in the southern states of Tamil Nadu. So now they are in a way again talking about what is called cinematic populism. Now this creation of cinematic populism is not something new, but with the advancement of digital technologies, it has gone to next level. Now there is an actor who acts in films, people have a fan base and there are many followers. But when that particular person joins a political party, the fandom of these of the films also follow them to join the ideology or to act as a vote bank for them. That is what is referred to as cinematic populism. And we also see that the new mediations of political community under current conditions of digitalization functioning in response or in accordance with cinematic populism. Further, referring to recent episodes of public agitation that followed intense online coordination, Coady shows how social memory and regional pride were brought together through WhatsApp and Facebook circulation. Now, whenever there is anything to do with politics, we see that it gets integrated with social memory, also could be called collective memory of a particular community, and then the regional pride also gets integrated, and through WhatsApp and Facebook, this circulation, it is happening. So one message, someone writes a message and it's getting circulated to generate what is called regional pride, to generate what is social memory, asking people to refresh their memories about that particular incident, bringing in people of the same community together through that circulation of collective memory and regional pride. These digitally coordinated mobilization led to effective publicity of spectacular proportions, and two such examples are Black Lives Matter and Dalit Lives Matter. So, this coordinated mobilization led to effective publicity. People felt that there is need to make it as an activism or make it into a movement, these two particularly, and it became very spectacular in nature, both these two movements.